Hi everyone, welcome to the Rowing on the Square podcast. I'm here today to talk about the transition between the water and our lovely friend the erg. As you know, a lot of people do get injured in the transition between being on the water and then getting on the rowing machine. You know, the dynamics of the machine are just very different than the dynamics that we have when we're out on the water. We all know that when we're on the water, we're drawing the boat underneath us, and our bodies are relatively stationary to where the position of the boat is. But when we're using the rowing machine, especially a standard concept two like this one, the dynamic changes. And the forces that we're creating as we're coming up to the catch change. And there's actually more force that you'll feel because of momentum. The body's moving to the foot plate. The foot plate forces on the rowing machine are higher than that of the foot plate forces that you get in the boat. A lot of times people say, oh, rowing in the boat doesn't bother my back, but being on the machine does. And that's the reason for that, is that the forces that you're producing are different. A lot of my clients who have issues with back pain, I encourage them to get a dynamic erg or to put their stationary concept two on a set of sliders. It's going to mimic the boat a little bit more. It's going to save your back just a little bit because you won't be getting all these foot plate forces. But just in general, when we make our transition from the boat to our lovely friend the erg, what should we be thinking about? I think some of the most important things to think about during this transition is how much use you're going to have and how much volume you're doing in comparison to your water rowing volume. I think a lot of times people finish up their time on the water, they're excited that fall season's over, and they take that break of however many days, or maybe sit out for a week or two before you get into using your indoor rower, and you just have to kind of recalibrate what type of volume that you're putting on your system. I always think it's really great, especially because we have all of this technology and the ability to be tracking how many meters that you're doing. You could be surprised how many sneaky meters end up showing up, especially late into the season, because you've been working out on the water, maybe doing a little bit of erging and supplementing, and then you're coming into the rowing machine. You're like, okay, well, I'm just going to do my 10K on the rowing machine like I've been doing out on the water. And they don't necessarily line up or translate. So make sure that, especially that first week, being really conscious of what your body is telling you, making sure that, are you waking up sore? Are you feeling it more in your back? Are your ankles bothering you, or your hands bothering you? Whatever it may be, that transition, make sure you're being very thoughtful about your volume. Something that I always like to kind of think about is foot position. Now, I do have my shoes off here. I'm wearing my lovely wool socks here. But foot position on the machine is very, very key. You want to make sure that your foot position is low enough so that the distance between the heel and the seat allows you to get into a comfortable compressed position. Now, I'm going to move the foot all the way up here, just so that you can see the difference in what the compressed position is with the foot plate at a 1. So this is me at a 1. So this is a tight position. I have pretty decent ankle flexibility, so I can still get my shin to perpendicular. I'm feeling the tension here in my low back. This is a little bit of a tight catch position for me. I'd like to be just a little bit looser. And if you have issues with flexibility in your hips or in your ankles, you're going to benefit from a lower shoe position. Now, if you have your own single, before you put everything away and you leave the boathouse, take a measurement from your heel cup to your seat. Figure out what that number is. And if you need to work on your flexibility during the winter, you want to try to make sure that you know how much flexibility you're actually looking for. So you're going to measure from the top of the seat to the bottom of the heel cup from your boat. And then you can translate that to your erg. Now, if that's too tight of a position to start with, it might be something where I tend to have my feet down here in the 4-5 range. 5 if I don't have my cushion on my seat. I have a very thin cushion that I use. And I always tell people you can buy a cushion, or you could take a ripped up old yoga mat and make a cushion out of it. Also, carpet pad. So I get lots of carpet pad, and I cut it up into cushions for the erg or cushions for the boat. If you lose it, it's not like the end of the world. You just go home and cut another piece. Especially as rowers, sometimes we misplace our stuff. So having something that you can replace easily, that you're not going to be heartbroken that it's gone. I don't know. I like that. So here we go with my feet more in 4, and see, like with the shoe down to 4, I feel like I can still be tall. I can get my my hands out. I feel like I can be on top of the catch. A lot of times when I talk about being on top of the catch, it's almost like that the wonderful drill that all of our coaches like to do, the suspension drill, where they hold the handle and you push, and you can push yourself off the seat. When I'm in this position, I feel like I can give that extra push, and that the push is coming low on the foot plate. With my feet up, I just feel like I'm a little bit what I call under the catch. And this is the position of the person under the catch. And for those who are listening, my back is curved. My butt's kind of tucked under. My heels are really close to the seat, and I'm behind the catch. This position, I like to talk about this position being more like a squat. So if you're getting into this position on the erg, you're going to need to give yourself some room, maybe add some cushions, raise your bottom up a little bit so you can be more in the deadlift. If you're not in the deadlift, then you're not going to create as much power as you could on the machine. Remember, everyone can deadlift more than they can squat. And so you want to make sure that you are deadlifting the machine every time that you push with your feet, not squatting it. That's something that I like to go over with all of my athletes, and make sure that they're really feeling strong in that position, that they can really drive the feet through the foot plate. The other thing I like to talk about once we get back to the erg, hand position. Oh my goodness. I see all sorts of things. Loose grip. Now, loose grip is okay. However, you wouldn't hang off of a dead hang or like a bar with your fingers like this, with your fingertips. You just wouldn't be strong. The other thing is that this is putting stress on your finger flexors. So that in your forearm, your finger flexors run up your forearm here, and they're in charge of holding your hand into this grip. The nice tight grip with a flat wrist is where I like to go. Not tight, but positioned, so that the handle is hanging, that there's pressure of that handle against the hand. I like to see a more closed grip, thumbs underneath, please. That's a big thing. Some people like to put their thumbs up. Again, you can do it, but is it a strong position? And you want to make sure that you can really, really connect through the hands. The hands are translating the power from your legs. If you're not connecting through the hand and having a nice tight, and not tight grip, because I don't want you to white knuckle the handle, but a formed grip is what we're really concentrating on. The grip is formed. I see a lot of like piano fingers. If you're one of those piano finger kind of people, make sure that you are not doing that every single stroke. Some people get into the habit of like kind of piano fingering the handle, and it becomes something where their thumbs are out a little bit, they're moving their fingers, they get up to the catch, they regrip and then go. Again, this is taking you out of the most powerful position that you could be in. So I'd highly recommend just making sure that your grip is formed and that the handle is in the hands here. I also like to make sure that people's hands are far enough apart so that the legs are comfortably coming through. If you tighten up the grip, as I tighten the grip, I can end up being on top of my knees. I have bigger legs, so I need to be out here towards the end. You want to make sure that the wrists are staying flat all the way through the stroke. Now, I know that there's many very wonderful, stronger than I'll ever be athletes who come into the finish and flex their wrists and raise the handle up. I have a couple problems with that as a physical therapist. So as you're drawing the hand back and you're coming into this flex position, a lot of times people loosen the grip, putting pressure on those finger flexors. You're also flexing the wrist. So you spend all winter practicing something that we don't do in the boat. There's no point in the rowing stroke that we're getting into like this flexed finger position. Also, I think it activates of like an improper sequencing through the finish just muscularly. So when you flex the fingers and you drop the elbows, there's minimal back activation through the finish, which we need when we're in the boat to help with getting the blade out of the water. We actually are kind of priming those back muscles, squeezing those shoulder blades together, and then dropping that hand. And that action's like just a touch of triceps. So you could spend all your time during the winter practicing something that's not necessarily going to help you once you get back to the boat. So you're practicing wrist flexion and bicep curl, really, in this position where when we get back into the boat, we're going to need to draw the shoulder blades together and work with a little bit of tricep extension. So I just feel like this position for someone who is learning, for a master's rower, someone who is not an Olympian. I mean, if it's a technique that you use and you are fast as all get out, use that technique. But for the person who's looking to create more power, looking to refine their rowing during the winter, I would recommend moving out of the loose finger and wrist flexion draw with the elbow drop. I just feel like it's not teaching you something that will be valuable and transition back to the water. If you only erg on the machine and you don't get on the water, then have at it. Do that position if that's helpful for you. But I feel like it puts extra stress on the wrist flexors. And as you come out here, I see that some people do kind of hold this position as they're bringing their bodies forward. So if you're coming into a neutral position, you can just place those arms out and bring them straight. When you're coming out of the finish with the wrist high like this, you have to extend the wrist and then extend the arms. Where here, we're just bringing those arms back out. We're keeping the wrist neutral. So my thought is that if there's extra movements that you can take out of your rowing that will help you once you're back out on the water, I think that that's something that you should be thinking about. One other thing I like to talk about a lot of times with my athletes is getting their arms out and getting their bodies set. So having their bodies being prepped and then staying stable like a statue and then pushing the legs back. So body prep is extremely important, not just for the fact that like we want everybody to have good hinge. Hinge is the first part of it. The second part of it is if you don't set your body angle and your body angle is developing over your stroke, so handles coming down, body's coming down, you're collapsing. When someone gets to this collapsed position at the catch, for those of you who are not watching on video, so I'm collapsed forward, my shoulders are down, my hands are down. This person has to then extend and drive. So this might be someone who you think when you watch them that they open early, but really what they're doing is they're trying to get back into the power position before they drive. So for those athletes that are having that issue and coming up and lowering the body and then raising back up, I go back and take a look at what's happening as they leave the finish. Are they setting the body angle? You want to stay in that power position, because if you move out of it, you're going to have to move back into it. Your body's going to naturally want to be in that power position when you start your drive, and you will do something that brings you back there. A lot of times, this is the point where someone gets a little bit of backache, because this micro movement has to happen every single stroke. And you can see there's like a pivot point in my back. And you could imagine that someone who's having back pain from being on the erg, if this is something that they're doing, that this could be the culprit for the back discomfort. It's this extra motion every single stroke to bring you back into the power position that can be very, very troublesome. You know, we want to think about most people are not super strong and have super strong backs. If you have a neutral spine as you're doing your rowing, it just leaves you in a stronger position, so it makes it easier for you to drive. So thinking about all of these different things, we covered hand position, foot position. Oh, my poor erg is singing today. Hand position, foot position, and we covered body position. The other thing is make sure you're placing your screen up at a nice height so that you can keep your head neutral. I know a lot of times there's a lot of movement within the head. It doesn't make as much of a difference on the erg, but you want to make sure that you're practicing a neutral head position, because it is 10 pounds that you're flinging around when you're trying to row, especially in a single. But even in the bigger boats, an extra 10 pounds every which way does make a huge difference. So I hope that everyone enjoyed this podcast episode. I hope to do more where I can talk a little bit more about biomechanics and the mechanics of getting back to the erg. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can go to rowingonthesquare.com. You can also take a look at my YouTube channel, which is at Rowing on the Square. My YouTube channel is a collection of exercises that I've done for all of my clinic clients. I have about almost 600 videos now. Some of the videos are just 15, 16 seconds of a particular exercise or stretch. They're all in playlists so that you can separate out and see which one that you may need. Say you want to look for a hip stretch, you can look on the hip video playlist and take a look at what I've got there. Also, there's a couple of rowing specific exercises. I have some exercises, dowel exercises with grip. There's a couple different types of warm-ups that are listed there. Also, some presentations that I've done. So if you really want to take a biomechanics deep dive, you can take a look there and hear some presentations that I've made. And it's a great resource. So feel free to reach out if you have questions. And thanks for listening. Appreciate your time. You take care and happy rowing.